launched the platform in 2013, it had a very specific agenda, which was, can we use technology to connect communities to share more? We were using the name Impossible, but we still have that platform. It's called Impossible People. We released it last year as an open source piece of technology. We've now pivoted it to a more B2B platform, and so are finding more success by using the same technology to enable kind of more niche use cases. I mean, when I started it, I had no clue what I was doing, wasted a lot of time and energy, making a lot of mistakes. But I was lucky enough to have support from different people. And you can try and affect change by yourself, but you're only ever going to achieve so much by yourself, whereas when you have a team of people working together and collaborating with other teams of people outside of the organization, there's much more possibility to have impact. I was approached by Project Literacy as an organization now maybe 2 years ago, and I was just kind of blown away by the data. I suddenly felt like, oh my God, this is actually an issue. We should have more awareness around the need to prioritize literacy if we want to combat many of these other kind of deeper social issues.
Can we talk a bit about climate change and your positions on it?
I've got a 2-year-old daughter. In 30 years' time, she's going to be more or less my age. And if you look at the trajectory we're on in terms of what scientists predict the world would look like in 30 years, it's not a pretty picture, and we do really need to change things. Supporting Paul McCartney's campaign, Meat Free Monday, as a first step, to move towards that culture. I try and look in a more singular way. How can I make small changes to my lifestyle to have an effect? And then how can we talk about those issues?
Thank you very much, Lily.
Thanks.
And my father was killed along with 6 other men on the streets outside our house. All of the witnesses who survived were arrested, but none of the police. So things like that were very immediately clear, that the government didn't have an interest in providing justice. That I saw people who had nothing and who had no power and who had plenty to lose protect us. And this is why I got very involved in the case of the capital punishment in Pakistan as well, because I had been on the other side of the law. I'd been on the side of the law where you are shut up, where your testimony is not heard, where things are removed, and where there's no possibility for justice. And so I've worked with women prisoners in Pakistan. I've worked with people on death row, because it crushes everybody. Yeah. And if you're lucky, like I have been, you are able to speak about it, you're able to write about it, but plenty of people don't have voices. There doesn't exist a political will to bring women forward, and there's a will to keep them back and quiet. But it's certainly not to do with culture. In fact, the non-Western world was really more progressive about women and representation of women in many, many ways. So, women in Turkey were given the right to vote before women in France, for example. Women in Iran and Morocco voted before women in Switzerland. Do you know women in Switzerland couldn't vote till 1971? And my interest was to examine the burqa, how it's used in different places. So in Algeria, for example, during French occupation, there was a huge campaign by the French to unveil women. They didn't wear the burqa because they loved not having peripheral vision, or because, they wanted to be oppressed, but because they were making a statement. And I think the politics of the veil of the burqa have so often been left out. There's a narrative there that implicates everybody, not just Muslims, but also the West, and men and women. I was asked to speak at an event on film. I wanted to talk about propaganda. Have any of you seen Homeland?
Of course.
Everyone loves Homeland. It's incredible because the CIA is such a benevolent force. They always cry every time they invade a country. They're really upset when they have to torture people for information. Every country does it, So if you look at Bollywood films, there's a lot of nationalism, a lot of national messages in those films too. But Hollywood is, of course, what we all watch. And I'm not saying we shouldn't watch it. We should watch it. We should absolutely enjoy our entertainment. But we should just be aware that it isn't innocent, and that what we're taking in comes with agendas and messages too.
Fatima and Lily, thank you both.
Thank you.